Hello, it's Laurel with Laurel Creates, and I am doing a little speed paint video with my new gouache paints. So I started off by taping down my sketch. This is on a 5x7, so you are quite zoomed in. And I'm only using the primary colors. So the primary magenta, primary yellow, and then primary cyan for this piece. There are so many different ways to mix colors that I thought doing a simple landscape with these colors was completely achievable. So gouache is kind of like, I've heard it explained as an in-between of acrylic and watercolor. It dries very flat and matte, and you can mix it with water and get watercolor effects, but you can also use it as a thicker paint and get things to be a lot more opaque than you can with watercolor. I'm using my Holbein, I don't know, one of those, maybe not, paints, and just kind of playing around with them. I live in Colorado, so of course I love the mountains, and these aren't based on any specific mountains. I didn't actually use a reference for this painting. I just kind of wung it, and there's definitely some problems with like lighting here and there, but I like it overall. So this first part, that first green I mixed, is like a very phthalo acid green, which is not necessarily what I was going for, so I end up toning that down quite a bit later on. But I just wanted to play with shapes and lighting, so making certain things like certain sides of the mountains lighter and darker, and then I have a little lake in the middle. I'm using my watercolor brushes, and I'm starting off with, I guess, quite thin layers of paint. So these first layers are more on the watercolor side. And throughout this painting, I do wish that I had played with the thickness a little bit more. I should have gotten out my palette knife probably. Maybe I'll do that with my next attempt with gouache. But I did end up just kind of watering these down a lot and doing a lot of thin layers, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with using gouache that way. It's just not really what I had set out to do. I set out to get a little bit more of a painterly, like thicker coverage, more opaque paint. But I didn't do that, so next time. Something else that I want to do is play around with color schemes. I think it'd be interesting to pick some random colors and try and color match those by mixing my paints and then painting a landscape or something with that specific color scheme. So I feel like I do have trouble keeping things in a cohesive color scheme unless I make it really limited. And when I'm painting like this, I'm kind of mixing as I go instead of pre-mixing all my paints, which isn't necessarily the best way to, have enough color. Sometimes you do that and then you run out of color. But Also, only having these 4 paints, including the white, does make it a little bit more limited, although since they're the primary colors, you can really get all of the colors from this. I'm also trying to challenge myself to work more with simple shapes, especially since I'm recording a lot. I want to make sure that when I'm recording my work that I can actually get it done in a decent amount of time and not stress myself out. So working small is one of those ways, and then also just really like challenging myself to say, no, don't put a bunch of details and time into the sketch, like just build upon what you have. So that's definitely something that I'm working on as well. I'm glad that I put this little lake in here because it brings some of the blue from the sky into the, I guess, mid-ground of the piece. And then I also did really, really light shadows on the clouds, which I'm actually pretty happy with how those turned out. Clouds are hard because I often just want to make them really cartoony. That's part of the reason I didn't sketch them out, because I figured if I could just be a little bit looser with the brush and just kind of do clouds where I wanted, they might look a little bit more natural than if I spent a lot of time thinking about them and sketched them all out and made them look very cartoony. Which, that's fine if that's what you're going for, but this whole thing is supposed to be a little bit more natural looking. And then I also played around with the shadows and whatnot on the mountains. I'm always so impressed by people that can draw these like seemingly very detailed mountains that are just full of simple shapes, and I want to learn how to do that. So this is just me messing around. Put some shadows, put some little trees, trying to figure out what my style of drawing this type of landscape is. And then, sorry, I wasn't recording, and I put in a bunch more shadows as well as some like little flowery type details with some more like pinky colors. And then I realized that I should have at least partially erased my sketch, because you can still see some of that pencil through the clouds, although I didn't think it was going to be a problem because my intention was to work with this not like watercolor but like gouache and use thicker layers, and I just didn't really do that. Here's the finished piece, and I'm pretty happy with it. I would like to work more with these natural shapes in the future, And yeah, tell me what you think. If you liked this video, I would love to see you around and chat with you in the future. So give me a like and a subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next week. All right, bye.